Hey, 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 it's B-Rad Celebrity Hairstylist here, your host of the Hairstylist Empowerment Podcast, where we empower you through stories, trials, tribulations, overcoming and how they got there, how to be a success, and more. Today's episode is no different. It's a true story of a leap of faith. So I want to welcome Candi Russell to the show.
Hi, Brad. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure being here. Really love
Hey,
the podcast.
Hey, it's amazing. So you have an incredible story, and two, it is a true leap of faith as well. I think our listeners are going to be wanting to know more about what you do because I mean you worked with celebrities, you worked celebrity stylists, you work with wigs, you work with Disney. Your list goes on and on and on. So we're going to
Yeah.
jump to you right now and just say so. Let's just jump right in and know a little bit about you.
Okay. Well, my name's Candi Russell. I'm based out of Los Angeles. I received my license about in 2016, November 2016. I feel like I got started in cosmetology career kind of late, and I feel like I started over like at the age of 25, which was a little challenging because I was already really established, and to start all over it was very hard, especially with my class. I was in class night school with like a whole bunch of like people who are fresh out of high school or early 20s. So it was challenging, but I specialize in styling hair. I work with wigs, all textures, do set work as well. And yeah.
So, with going to school, did you find that your interest was mainly in wigs before you started, or you went to school and you thought, I'll do everything, or did the wig sort of develop later?
No, when I went into school, it was mainly for wigs because I'm a DIY person
Hmm.
and I'm really into YouTube. So I would watch a lot of YouTube videos on how to make wigs. And I always had like the raw talent, but I wanted to establish, make it more structured. So I just know that you need a license, not necessarily
Hmm.
work on wigs, but why not?
Hmm. Well, especially I guess in the US too, because each state has a different thing for licensing. Because I
Right.
think even some places in the US, even to be a braider, you have to have a license.
Yeah.
So you can't just go and do braids on people. Where here I'm in Toronto, Canada, so our licensing system's a little bit different. Where you're state by state, we're more by province, or my license would cover a larger, greater area, so it's a little bit different. But like, and two, because before you went to school, you were doing something completely different.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
I worked for the post office. I was a window clerk and a passport agent. So it
Oh.
was very different. Yeah, very different.
Because I obviously too, because there you are, and the biggest thing too, because you said, like, obviously too, from working there to jumping into school and then and going from there was a big like pay cut
Oh
and
yeah.
that sort of thing. So that must have strapped you a little bit financially. Plus now you're going to school and you have all these kids that are younger, or you have all these kids that probably are going, or just people that are different. Like you said, they're fresh out of high school, so they're kind of in a different state than you are. Being
Yeah.
25, you're a little bit more mature. You kind of know what you want to do, and then
Yeah.
here you are in school. And but at least you took the initiative to to go and make something and kind of just do it. So, what was a turning point for your life to say, I'm going to leave USPS and then make a change in my life?
Well, I always liked doing hair, but I went with my friend who was my roommate at the time,
Hmm.
and she was starting to get into culinary school, and I took the tour with her. So I was kind of inspired by the fact that she was really just going to go ahead and pursue what she wanted to do. So it made me go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to start school.
Yeah, and that's wonderful because I think sometimes that's what it is. We don't know where the turning point is, or we kind of get that calling, or we have something pulling on our heart that says, hey, you need to do something different. This
Right.
is what I'm not meant to do the rest of my life. This, I can imagine yourself. you probably visioned, if I'm working, I'm going to retire here, and I'm going to still be at the same, the
Yeah.
same doing passports, the same doing everything. But obviously, too, doing wig work and doing that sort of thing, it opens up such a whole new world of things for you. So you jump from there, and then went from, I say, leaving school, and then you got right into Disney.
Well, after I left school, I actually started doing a little freelance.
Okay.
Ex- I worked for a LA Fashion Week,
Mm-hmm.
which was a nice experience. And then
Mm-hmm.
I was hired as an assistant for this popular salon, but it didn't really work out. The owner
Mm-hmm.
was I was just really disappointed in the
Yeah.
experience. And then after that, I went to Disneyland.
Mm-hmm. And that's a thing too, and I guess that's a tough thing when everybody's kind of new. You're new in the industry. It's like, where do I go? And obviously, you want to find the best mentors, the best trainers, and a lot of times too, you can find maybe personalities that your vision and their vision may be a little bit different. But I think in some ways, sometimes with that little bit of that trial, you overcame, and it got you somewhere better.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
at least opened up doors to other things. Because me personally, I didn't even know Disney had hairstylists.
Right. Yeah.
But I guess they would, because they have wigs, correct? For
Yeah.
all the characters and the, like, that sort of thing. So is that what you would normally do? And how would you get, so if somebody listening wanted to get into Disney, how would you suggest they go about that?
Well, you would apply on their website, you will get a call back, and then they will bring you in for a verbal interview. And then
Hmm.
at the end of the verbal interview, they will have you do a audition. They'll give you at Disney, you style according to documentation.
Hmm.
So they will give you a picture, and you will recreate an updo. They supply all the supplies you need, and you
Hmm.
just have to recreate the updo. Um, if you do want to work at Disney, I would suggest that you start doing a little research on how to properly block a wig, even though they will show you that. But going into the interview,
Hmm.
well, they'll already have the wig blocked for you, but still just start doing a little research on how to style synthetic wigs, human
Hmm.
hair wigs, but mostly synthetic wigs, and just do research on that.
Yeah, and I guess too, with the characters that they have, a lot of it would be more on the synthetic side, because they're out and those days are hot.
Yes.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And two, because you would have to have consistency. Because I think too, because if you're doing all of the wigs for the princesses at Disney, they have to be consistent. They have
Hmm.
to look the same. So that wig, when it comes back, has to go out exactly the same. You can't say, well, I think I want to do a little
Yeah.
flip here, or change the style, or I think Jasmine should look like this and have, instead of a center part off to the side. I think they would freak a little
Yeah, they're very,
bit.
very particular about styling to documentation. And honestly, ever since I worked at Disney, I don't look at pictures the same. Like
Hmm.
when you say like this one piece of hair needs to be coming forward, this piece behind it is very particular. And I think that's good for,
Hmm.
to develop your skill. But yeah, it's very particular.
Well, and exactly, and to be able to recreate the same thing over and over and over. Because I know a lot of hairstylists, even for bridal trials, and we had a bridal um, uh, story last time, but it's the same. Like, you do your trial, and then they come back, and it's almost the same, but not quite. But in your
Right.
profession, you got to make sure it's dead on documentation, 100%. And probably too, with their princesses and the people, their characters, they have to be consistent as well, because
Yes.
those kids, they know exactly where every hair is, what they sound like, what that character is like, and if it looks that little bit odd, they're going to be, and I think it's with everything. So it's probably every Disney you ever go to, that any park you go to, they have to be exactly the same. So they have to make sure the artist can style that exactly the same every single time. And I think in some ways, that's kind of amazing training, even though it may be monotonous. But then,
Mhm.
okay, I need this, and you have it consistent, whether it's a 16th of an inch, or, like, they're probably pretty strict, I
Yes.
imagine. Like, if it doesn't even look the slightest off, then you have to, like,
Yeah,
redo
you
it.
have to redo it. Yeah.
And what's the challenge working with a synthetic wig over regular, a wig with a mix, or like just regular human hair?
Um, well, of course, with the synthetic wigs, you can't really use heat. you can use like hot rollers
Hmm.
or do a lot of wet sets. But I feel like with the type of styling that's required for the characters at Disneyland, synthetic, I feel like works better in a
Hmm.
sense because I feel like it holds better.
Yes.
And another challenge with working with synthetic wigs, as you continue to restyle it, it's becoming more and more matted.
Oh, yes. Yes.
There's ways to get rid of it. You can steam it out and, of course,
Hmm.
wash it and all that stuff, but it doesn't last as long as a human hair wig.
No, and as I say, I think it's because of the heat that they can do it. But if you're washing synthetic, because I know if people go to your YouTube, which we'll leave a link, you
Yeah.
made a video on how to wash a wig.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
And that really makes a big difference because a lot of people don't. And I think too, you don't realize how gentle you kind of have to be, because I
Mhm.
love your step by step in your video because it shows exactly start to finish what you really need to do. Because I think a lot of people, they grab it, they dunk it under some water, they
Yeah.
like go
Yeah.
crazy with it, and then they're wondering why it's like all matting and it's
Mhm.
nasty, especially if you have synthetic, you know what I mean? And that like especially if you're working with like the bad synthetics, which are like the Halloween hair wigs,
Right.
where you can't put any heat on them, they'll just they'll just melt and stuff like that. So then with the actors, when you would you use a lace front for them?
um, yes, they did have lace front.
Oh, okay, and then
And
you
they
would
were,
secure it and
with lace hairpins.
oh, okay, and then just keep it until they need it the next time. So with going from Disney, because you've done some other training with some different people, so let's kind of go into that a little bit. So we may go back to Disney later, but so we're jumping forward. So what are some of the other trainings you've done? What are some of the people you've met? I know Kimble is one of them that you
Hmm.
took at the academy. You did some hair extensions with
Yes.
Kimble.
She had a class and it was like a 5-hour class hands on. She went
Hmm.
over some period history, I believe,
Okay.
period history of period
Yeah.
hairstyling.
Hmm.
She showed us her method for installing extensions.
Hmm.
And yeah, that was about it for that class. I
Hmm.
also took a class with Camille Friend, who is,
Okay.
yeah,
Hmm.
she had a basically how to get into the industry class as far
Hmm.
as like um, more period hairstyling.
Okay.
I would prep the hair for like a bald wrap,
Hmm.
no, for a bald cap.
Yes.
And she showed us that method, and then she showed us how she applies her lace wigs, and yeah.
Because I think too now with the industry, depending on what you want to get into, especially if you're going to do theater, film, stage, you're going to encounter a lot more um, requirements for doing vintage type hair, doing
Mhm.
period styling hair, doing so with the extensions. Do you find that yourself? Do you do all methods, or you do more like tape in methods, clip in methods, fusion? Um,
Was it period hairstyling?
yeah.
More so the clip-in extensions
Hmm.
and really wigs, really.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
Just
can you make, so do you yourself make wigs from scratch, or do you more style them?
I can
Or,
make I started off making wigs from scratch,
oh,
but
okay.
I'm realizing that I should spend more time focusing on just mainly styling a wig
Hmm.
versus making them because you can always buy a wig. Like a department head can always buy a wig. So it's like I feel
Hmm.
like put more emphasis on building up your skill for styling
Well,
all.
of course, and it can take time because I've done a wig making. I've done a wig making course. I'm certified, but to go in and like you know what it takes. You have to
Right.
go every little thing, pull it,
Yeah.
do strand by strand or a couple strands. You can't do 5 or 10 strands in one thing. It's going to look like those bad doll hair.
Yeah.
So the hairlines aren't going to be so nice. So with securing wigs, and if they're using a lace front, what are some adhesives that you like to use, or what's the best way to secure a wig if you're going to do a lace front to make it look natural?
There's this method called the stocking cap method.
Hmm.
And basically, you will, what I like to do is I like to braid the hair back and
Okay.
then I get a nude stocking cap
Hmm.
and I will pull it all the way down to like their forehead. And then I
Okay.
would take an adhesive, like um, I know you can use like spirit gum and stuff,
Hmm.
but a lot of like clients, like my clients,
Hmm.
they don't need anything that high.
No.
So use like got to be glue and
Oh,
take
okay.
it and spread it along your hairline,
Hmm.
and then take the got to be spray that as well. Use a blow dryer, dry it, cut the the wig cap that you don't need, and then
Hmm.
you do the same thing with your wig. You just add a little bit more adhesive,
Hmm.
dry it, and then just pull the wig down and kind of take a stocking cap and put it on your two fingers, and then kind of melt it by like
Oh,
roll,
okay.
and it
Hmm.
kind of helps melt the lace into the skin, so it looks a
Yeah.
little more natural.
Because I guess that's the thing too, because you don't want it to look like you can see the line or a difference in color from the skin color to where the lace is. And I guess also a lot of celebrities, a lot of film, high-end theater productions, they more so use lace, wigs in their
Right.
productions and that sort of thing. Do you ever find that using spirit gum that you get people that are sensitive, or most people that you do it on seems to be okay?
I feel like most people I do it on, it seems to be okay. It's
Mhm.
just like I just wouldn't necessarily do it for like a everyday client.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wouldn't because
No,
yeah.
and the got to be line that's a Schwarzkopf.
Yes.
Schwarzkopf makes that line, yeah. So and you find it works really well. The glue doesn't get too hard, go too stiff. It doesn't go nasty, and it's pretty easy to remove as well.
Yeah, you just have to take some water or take like a damp,
Hmm.
like say you just get like a some piece of cloth and make
Okay.
the cloth damp and then kind
Okay.
of just rub in circular motions and it'll help to lift it a little. Especially like you're usually removing it more
Hmm.
so towards the time to be removed anyway, so you may already have a little bit of lifting.
Oh, okay. And especially too if they're perspiring and things like that.
Yeah.
So say if you have an actor that or a person, even a client, and they sweat quite a bit, is there any way or there's something that you do or you don't do anything different about that?
Honestly, another way you can do it is you can kind of sew down towards like kind of by your ears, like the
Hmm.
ear tabs a little. So
Okay.
that way you can put glue just mainly on the front area and that
Uh,
helps
oh,
instead of
okay.
having the whole entire hairline.
Yeah, and for some people, it makes it easier too, because the last thing you want is now you have it secured down, and they're sweating, or it's to say it's really warm, and now
Right.
all that lace is starting to lift to lift up. And I think the biggest thing for stylists now too is um, like people come in, they see these colors, they're like, I want this where it's like white and it's got different colors and it's green and it's this or it's smoky. But a lot of these people don't realize that these are wigs, and they're not that, like, that's not the hair you can really do, because most people know if you're going to have white on the ends and you have dark green or a color up top, that color is going to bleed through unless you're really good at rinsing really well.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's the thing, because a lot of celebrities now are wearing more wigs than ever before. And then, but I think one of the challenges for us as stylists, then people are like, I want that hair. I want you to be able to do that hair for me. Right. I have to be in and out in half an hour and I got $50. And because obviously, um, with that, but um, would you have a ballpark estimation? Like, say if somebody wanted a full, like, natural hair wig, what would they be expecting to pay retail if you had a client coming in? So if you were to fit somebody, do a wig for them, what kind of would be a ballpark of a starting figure that you would tell someone?
Well, realistically, like if you want a custom made wig and then installed and all that, like because as you know, it takes a lot of time. So
Mhm.
500 is
Yeah.
like I feel like it's fair.
Yeah, and that's your minimum, and you go up from there because you're taking the time. You have to fit them, and if you're like if you're making the wig personally,
Right.
yourself, that's going to take a lot more, especially if it's a natural wig, synthetic wig. And I think too, it's the care of the wigs as well. So, do you have something you recommend when you're sort of washing the wig or taking care of the wig? Do you have something you send clients home with, or do you have something that you use? If a client came to you and said, can you wash this wig, dry it, blow it out? What would you kind of use for that wig? Is there something special you use, or do you recommend a certain type of shampoo, like a general, like a mild type shampoo, or do you have a line that you like personally?
Well, at this, I also work at a wig company right now,
Hmm.
and when we do a lot of washing sets, we'll use the Bumble and Bumble hair line.
Okay. Yeah.
And or like the when people come in to have it clean, I
Hmm.
recommend using the Sunday shampoo because it helps get rid of all that residue.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Sunday. So how do you spell, like the day Sunday,
Yeah, like
or the?
Sunday. And
Okay.
then also just making sure when you wash the wig that you
Hmm.
put the shampoo on the roots
Oh,
and be
okay.
careful
Hmm.
and then rinse it out. You hold it, don't just have a bucket,
Hmm.
dump it in and out of the bucket, hold it by the cap.
Hmm.
Don't just spread the hair all around. Same thing like on your head. You're not going to just, well, you're not supposed to just get your hands and just go crazy and just
Hmm.
knot it up. And then also with the conditioner, make sure
Hmm.
to do mid shaft to ends. You want to be
Okay.
careful with not getting it on the roots because it
Okay.
can loosen the knots.
Okay. Oh, yeah, they'll force him to slip. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then you may be losing more when you start to brush out, and then your wig or your piece, excuse me, is going to thin out quite a bit
right.
as well. No, it's good information. It's good for people to know. And to say you did a complete video. And what's the name of your YouTube channel?
Cosmo with Candy.
Okay, so people go there. We'll also leave a link underneath in the description as well. So if you guys want to check out that video, I've already seen it and it's amazing.
Thank
So
you.
then you can go. It's a step by step. It's very easy. And probably if anybody has any questions, they can also email you and
Yeah.
that sort of thing, and you can help them along as well. So one thing I want to jump to is you made there's a blog post. If you go to Candi, so it's cosmowithcandi.com. If you want to check out her website, she did a blog. It's called 5 Tips on How to Leave Your Corporate Job to Get Started in the Beauty Industry. So we're going to just briefly go over some of the points, but if you want to read the whole article, we'll leave a link for you and you can kind of go. But this is something you mentioned. So number one is something you mentioned something early in the program. So number one is to do your research. So
Yes.
I guess a lot of people don't.
I feel like especially when people want to go get into set work,
Hmm.
they just expect for it to just happen and just any job in general. Like understand what you're really signing up
Hmm.
for. Do the research. Make sure you understand what the pay is going to look like, what's
Hmm.
going to be required of you, how much time and energy you're really going to have to put into it. Because
Hmm.
you don't want to and then start something just because, oh, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
And then once everything starts to come to surface as what you really need to do to make it happen, then you
Hmm.
waste your time because you decide that you're not really that passionate enough to even continue to put that effort into it. So don't waste your time. Make sure you do your research on what you really
Yeah.
want to
And
do.
that's a great point because so many people jump into a company and they're like, I want to work for them. I want to work for them. Yet they really know nothing about the company. And like you said, they don't know what the pay scale is. They don't know what the hours are. And then they get their dream job, quote unquote, and
Right.
then they hate it. But if they've done their work and they did their research, they would know if it was for them. Call around, maybe see some other people that have done it, or look online, see more, and if that's really what you want. So we're going to jump to number two, which I kind of like, is make it your side hustle first.
Yeah. Before like Before I left the post office completely, I was slowly transitioning. My
Hmm.
maybe, okay, I'm going to scale down to part time.
Hmm.
And then the other 2 days, I'm going to start doing hair on the side.
Hmm.
So I didn't just like, okay, I got my license, I'm going to quit and
Yeah.
then be stuck. You just have to slowly, like, all right, even if you're not taking away days from your other jobs, on your spare days, just take one
Hmm.
day out the week and dedicate it to trying to get clients, or
Hmm.
every day after work at least dedicate 2 hours towards working on a plan for how you're going to make it work and
Hmm.
getting your business cards ready. Start 2 hours out. Say you spend an hour after work every day passing out your business cards,
Hmm.
starting to build up your clientele. Just don't just jump completely off the ledge.
No, no, but you're exactly right. By having a business card, having a website, it shows you're serious about having a business. Because if you think, and it's one thing that people think that, oh, I have my license now, people are just going to come in droves to me. I'm going to be so busy with
Yeah.
so much money, I don't have to do anything. I'll just open the doors and they'll be booking like crazy. But if you don't get out there, which brings us to our next point, let's say if you don't have your business cards, you don't have a website, you don't have any social media where people can go. But this brings us to our next point is number three is to build your network, which I think is so, so important. So I'll get you to tell us a little bit more about building your network.
Okay, yeah. So, like I mentioned earlier, as soon as I was done with school, I seen that they needed volunteer hairstylists for LA Fashion Week. So I started doing a lot of trade work, and through trade work, I've met a lot of people, and I went through a whole year of doing a lot of just free trade work, but it's come back to me because the people that I've met have actually started giving me jobs and
Hmm.
introducing me to other people. Like I had a friend who I had met on a trade photo shoot, and a year later, she passed my information to a producer for a Petco commercial. So
Hmm.
I know a lot of people don't see the value and don't want to work for free. And I'm not saying that you necessarily should,
Hmm.
but definitely sometimes you do have to. You never know who you're going to meet at the end of the day.
Exactly. And if you're willing to put in the work and say it goes up to the same with your second point about making it your side hustle, because at least if you're willing to do what the other people aren't willing to do, and that means doing maybe some stuff for free. When I first started, I did a lot of runway shows, fashion shows, bridal shows. But like you said, it gets you in there. You get to work for people. Even if you're doing trade for pics, you're still getting to work with other artists and they
Right.
may be doing another project and they say, hey, I know this great hairstylist, boom, and then you get a paying job, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people aren't. They're like, I want to be a stylist and I want to be big and I want to be a celebrity and I want to do stage stuff. But
Right.
then somebody says, hey, will you come and help us with our show? And they're like, well, you're going to pay. No, okay, forget it. But
Yeah.
then by going to these places, especially how many stylists listening today can say, I did LA Fashion Week,
Hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's a big thing. That's a big thing. And that must be crazy. Like, what was the environment there? We're going
Very
to
fast paced. Very
do.
fast paced. But
Yeah.
honestly, it's fast paced, but you're able to work with so many different people, and you can honestly learn so many different things just from seeing how other people
Hmm.
work. It's like if you work in a salon and you're working with the same people every day, you kind of end up seeing their tricks. But if
Hmm.
you go to a completely different event with people from all different salons, you can pick up so many different techniques by just working with them. And 9 times out of 10, everybody's very friendly,
Hmm.
but it's very fast paced and it's a good experience.
Hmm.
It
Well,
helps you with your feet.
of course, and it helps you to be good really fast
Hmm.
because you have to be. And a lot of times too, if you're doing fix, like if they're going out on the runway, they're switching, they're coming back up, you don't have a lot of time. And you have to, I think it really teaches you also people skills. Because if
Yes.
somebody's freaking out and you're the one there working on them and they're you know what I mean? Because obviously we work with different types of people. Some are wonderful, some are temperamental, some
Hmm.
are, it doesn't matter what you do, they hate everything. But
Right.
it's, but working in shows like that and that experience and say getting the pictures, getting the memories, which kind of brings us to our next thing is, and you have a wonderful one, especially you have amazing pictures on your website. I've kind of used some for social media. I tagged you in them. So, but if you see Candi's work, so number four is build your portfolio.
Yes. And like I said, what I was by doing a lot of that trade work, that's where a majority of my portfolio came from
Hmm.
because I was doing a lot of work for photo shoots just for trade. And as you see, they're good quality work. It's not like you're
Hmm.
just doing like, you know,
Yeah, no, pictures are amazing. And I
yeah.
think, and it really, like you said, good quality work. You can't just take your regular camera, have a couple snapshots, because for social media now, it's not good enough anymore.
Right.
They have to be, if you're a professional, they have to look professional. right? Or
Yes.
people aren't going to take you seriously if you're taking your little, you know, little camera. Even though now, even some of the phones and some of the, other devices have amazing, capture technology in them, so it's much better. But I think how important would you say a portfolio is to an artist?
It's very important because if you meet somebody and you say, "Hey, I'm a hairstylist," and then they're going to want to see your work.
Hmm.
So you want to make sure you're putting your best foot forward and you have quality photos so they can take you seriously. Like,
Hmm. Yeah,
and
and it shows a different thing. So so in your portfolio, I imagine you would have different types of looks, or do
yes.
you have suggestions of what people should definitely have in there, or does it really matter? Or is if you're or if you specialize, if you're a period artist, then you should have more of that, or if you're a colorist, more of that, or I guess, or do you think you should have a little bit of everything?
I feel like if you really know that, okay, I just solely want to focus on color, then your
Hmm.
portfolio should mainly contain color. But
Hmm.
if you want to be like a set, like, you know, a
Yeah,
set,
specialize more in period or do strictly film or,
then you should
I mean,
show
yeah.
diversity. Like, you should show that you can work with different hair textures,
Hmm.
different styles. You can do, um,
Because I imagine styling hair for film or doing wigs for film is going to be totally different than, you know, doing hair for a bride or doing hair for just a regular client or doing hair for maybe theater. They're all going to have different demands, especially too if you're working with lace. You know what
yes,
I mean? It's going to be different. Lace in film is totally different than lace for stage
yes, it
because
is.
of lighting, because of, and you don't have a camera zoomed in your face when you're on stage, but then also too, vice versa. If you're on stage, you have lighting which they don't have for film, so it's kind of there's a balance in the other. So as I say, so we're going through. So number one, so number one is you've done your research. Then you make it your side hustle. Then you build your network. You built your portfolio, which brings us to number five. So now, which is your big story, which is to take the leap.
Yes.
So when you were jumping, tell us about your leap. So tell us about a little bit about take the leap, and then a little bit of your leap, and then because you've done quite a few things and leaping from one to the next. So we'll concentrate more on the article. So then the take the leap. So they've done all the four. This is number five. So what does take the leap mean?
Well, taking a leap means, well, it first started with even going to cosmetology school because at the time I was a full time employee at the post office, and my job was actually 45 minutes from school. And so I attended night program, which was 25 hours a week. So I had
Hmm.
to really make that sacrifice with my extra time and understand that, like,
Hmm.
this, it was hard sometimes because you're tired and
Hmm.
you may have a rough day at work, you may have a rough day at school too, and then you have to get up and do it all over again.
Yeah.
But you have to really go ahead and make that sacrifice
Hmm.
and
Because
just
I bet a lot of times too, being exhausted, a lot of times you say, if I am I really doing this for the right reasons? Do I want to pack it in? I'm tired. Let me just, why do I need this? I'm working all day. Why should I go to school all night? You know what I
right.
mean? It may not even work out anyway. So did your mind ever kind of have those thoughts as well?
Yes, because sometimes I would be late to school, and every time you're late, you would get marked down. If you get so
Oh,
many marks, you actually get kicked out and you have to start all over. So I
wow.
remember one day I was in traffic and I was just so frustrated because I was just like, I didn't know if I could do it anymore. And I actually called my classmate and told her I was going to go to Marinello's because it was closer. But
Yeah.
Marinello's closed down anyway, so I'm glad they
Oh
did.
no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was times where I definitely was just
Hmm.
felt like I just couldn't, but I knew that I had to. I had to push through because at the end of the day, I knew that what I wanted to accomplish, I can get to it. It's just I have to really just
Hmm.
push through and
Yeah,
just
so that was your strength when you dig deep inside, because obviously too having all those emotions that are telling you can't do it, give up, you're tired, why do I need this? So there's something deep inside you that now, takes your trials into a triumph, and you're like, now you're overcoming. Now you're
Yes.
becoming empowered. Now you're actually doing it. You're going to say, forget it, thoughts. I'm not
Yeah.
going to listen to you. I don't care how tired I am. I'm going to do it. But where do you pull that from? Like what was the drive that made you? There's always the why, because for me there's always the why that makes you cry. And there's some reason when you dig down deep, it's like, why am I going to do this above all other things, above people telling me? Even some people get that too, because I don't know what you had when you said to some people, friends, family, I'm going to be a hairstylist. Did you have people say, wow, that's wonderful? Did you have people say, why are you going to do that? Why don't you get a real career? Or you shouldn't leave where you're at because they're paying you money. You may not make any money doing hair.
Oh,
You
yes,
must be
definitely.
crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I remember one time I was leaving work and a postal inspector was there and I was like, yeah, I have to go take my finals. And then he's like, oh, what are you in school for? I'm like, hair. And he said to me, you really think that the cutting hair is going to be more lucrative than the post office? And I said, yeah, if I wanted to be. So
Exactly.
yeah, so I'm like a creative person. So being in the office all day, and I
Hmm.
just feel like I'm really working to make somebody else's dream come true when I have
Hmm.
my own. So it's like
Yeah.
I just couldn't picture myself just 20 years down the line
Mhm.
working at the post office. Not that
No.
it's anything wrong, but it's not for me.
No, no, and that's a gold nugget right there, which a lot of people don't get. We're so busy building somebody else's dream, we put our own aside and we're not building up our own. Because you could
Yeah.
be another 20 years where you were, but then are you going to be any farther ahead? And to me, it's kind of funny, and that's why I laugh, because everybody has hair for the most part.
Mhm.
And we can make hair if they don't have hair.
Right.
But even with the place you're at, now a lot of people are using email, a lot of people are using alternative things. So in some way, your career probably has more longevity than even the
Yeah.
other, because obviously not everybody is sending snail mail anymore. Not
Yeah.
everybody is, when now you can instant message, now you can text, now you can email. A lot of times we don't write formal letters anymore. We don't send, unless you want to send a card, but even you can send e-cards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But and that's the big thing, because I think that's the essence. Why are we building a dream for someone else? Because one, we think maybe we're not good enough.
Mhm.
Two, we don't have the money. Three, I don't know if you can pitch in some things, that like some stuff that people normally get thrown at them all the time.
Yeah.
um,
I think security and I mean, I feel like the easiest thing you can do is go to a corporate job that you know is like, with hairstyles, we have to create our own work. We
hmm
have to, find our work. With the
yeah.
post office, if there's a slow day, it doesn't matter if it's one or 200 people walking through the door. I'm still going to get that same paid amount as
hmm
being a hairstylist. If don't have one person walk through the door, then I'm not going to make anything. But I just feel like people get really caught up
hmm
in stability, and I understand it because, of course, making that jump is
hmm
you're definitely going to go through a huge change. That's when I went through a $22,000 pay cut,
hmm
and it was not fun. It
no.
wasn't easy, but in my mind, I know I make this sacrifice now, I'm going to get back even more than what I can imagine because I do have a goal.
hmm
And I feel like this is my purpose. I feel
hmm
like this is what God really wants me to do. So I
exactly.
know that at the end of the day, I may have a couple rough years. I may have a
hmm
rough year, whatever. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm
hmm
going to get there. And
yeah.
I'm going to have even more than what I ever gave up. So
Well,
it's
exactly. And if you're brought through it, you can be brought through it, right?
yeah,
So, and that's the thing. But to say and you hit it too, because it's the passion, it's the dream, because there's that light, and it's if you have a calling, because people are like, I'm called to do this, I'm called to do that. But I think sometimes that's where I think where you can make the most impact, where you can make the most. because I think too there's a lot of ordinary people that do extraordinary things. So you don't have to be some person that's out there all, all over social media, all over whatever, to make it different in someone's life. And for you, probably putting on, a wig for someone and the transformation that you see, and if you see that light and that spark and that, because you're hitting all the right stuff, and I think it's what you're saying is what a lot of people miss. Like, they give up hope, they give up their dream, they give up their passion. But if you have a burning passion, go with that burning passion. It doesn't matter. As I say, with our guest Candi Russell, it means she was willing to sacrifice to do everything. Like, had a secure job, was willing to do it, had people that said, you know, why not just take, and that's what we get. Why don't you just work 40 hours a week for the same money? Like you said, you may do one client, get nothing, but you also have, being an entrepreneur, you have unlimited income. So whatever you want to do, and as a wig maker and as a professional working with Disney, working with other projects, working with movie, working with stage, your income is unlimited. And because once you become in demand, and once you follow those 5 steps, which I recommend you go and do, because once you've created that portfolio, once you created that network, once you really know what you want to do, it really makes a big difference. And I'm sure that, Candi will be on hand. If you message her, she can guide you along or help you a little bit or share a little bit more of her stuff. But she really makes me passionate, because she's really somebody that really embodies too what, and as I say, with our Les Gas and a few people we've had on the podcast, they're really what this show is about. You're having trials, having tribulations, overcoming, having faith, taking that leap of faith, which is so scary.
Yeah.
Like, I applaud you, because you're an amazing, empowered woman. And
Thank
that's
you.
tough too, because being even a woman in the field is tough, because I think too, because making a difference, number one, going to school, I think that would kill me. Working all day and then doing 25 extra hours. And I know what school's like. And then you got to do all your extra stuff on top of that. You know what I mean? But you're good, because you decided to specialize. And I think in some ways that is more lucrative, and it puts you more in demand when you decide to specialize in something, as opposed to, I can do everything. But why do everything mediocre when you can do one thing great, and you can make an income, from it as well. So one thing I want to talk about is, so something that you're in, so it's unions, right?
Yes.
So there's professional and non-professional, but there's a 706 local union that you're kind of working on now. So what's the reason for joining a union? What's a union about? And do they really help the artist?
Okay, so the 706 union is that's where like all the movie, okay, so the hairstylists that work on like the ABC shows, the all the bigger companies, you have to be a part of the union to work on their shows.
Okay.
So basically, if you're working on a union show and a non-union show, non-union is less pay, union is a lot more. And I'm a part of the theme park classification because it was a requirement working with Disneyland. So right now I'm currently working on elevating so I can, work on more shows like Dancing with the Stars and just do that type of stuff. But it's not a very easy thing to get into. Really tricky. And again, this will really challenge how passionate and how much you want it, because it can really be discouraging sometimes. But you just have to really just keep pushing through. It's a long process, but if you put in the work, and this is again where network comes into play, this is very important. That's one thing I'm really starting to realize. Like, who really is important.
More so than, and that's the big thing in the industry, especially when you're going up the ladder. You can be the most talented person, but if you don't have a network and you don't know someone, and because a lot of times I know people said, oh, I could do better than that person. I can do way better work than them. But the difference is they're doing it and you're not. Like, you may be a better stylist, but you're not getting out there. So do you think a union's enough, or do most artists have do they have an agent? that books for them, or is it easier just to book your own gigs?
They have an agent. I feel like a lot of people don't really know about the union as you would
Hmm.
think.
Hmm.
That's one thing. And then I do think that a lot of people have an agent who books for them and coordinates. And then also there are people who book for themselves, like through referrals,
Okay.
which is mainly what I do because
Hmm.
um, I'm very limited on what I
Hmm.
can do
Yes.
within the union. So
Hmm.
I had to rely more so on reaching out to people, seeing if they can, if they have anything going or if somebody refers something to me. So I'm more like
Okay.
on that end.
So is that more the platform you need now to elevate yourself to the next level in order to be able to do more union
Yes.
projects?
In order to become full roster on union,
Hmm.
you have to do non-union work.
Okay.
And so I have a network with, it's weird, like even though
Hmm.
I can't really work
Yeah.
union stuff, I
Hmm.
have a network within the union, but
Hmm.
the non-union side is more challenging to me.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah.
So,
Because I think it makes a big difference. So start to finish. So what would you say you need, or a timeline approximately? What would it take from a person who's never worked with the union, gets into the union, to be fully unionized?
well, they have a process that's 3 years. It's
Oh, wow.
60, 60, 60.
Okay.
3 years of 60 days of
Okay.
non-union work that fits in their requirement. Or you
Oh.
can work on, like, say if you do daytime television,
Hmm.
30 days on a daytime television
Hmm.
show, and then you have to do an additional 120 days of non-union work within 2 years.
Okay. So so what would non-union, so what would be in that category of non-union?
There's like certain TV shows
Hmm.
that aren't union, which is what I'm still trying to figure
Yeah. So would
out.
that be more like a local television show, or like, um,
Yeah, more like a local television
yeah.
show. I know that some things on Netflix isn't union is basically depends on the budget of the show.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
once it hits over a certain budget, that's when it becomes flips to union.
I see. So what would happen for a local theater or maybe an independent film project at a college? Would those be considered? Could you do those projects and they would count towards your hours?
If they pay you a minimum of 8 hours of
Okay.
if your pay equals out to a minimum or 8 hours of minimum wage pay,
Oh, okay. Yes.
then you can
Then you can be considered, or it's still considered part of yours. Yeah.
yes, I believe so with
Okay.
but definitely with a local TV show, like,
Hmm.
there's a lot of TV shows, like, there's some shows on VH1
Oh,
about
okay.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
just a matter of really just trying to figure out pinpoint exactly, and I'm still in that process of trying to
Hmm.
pinpoint exactly, and then you have to, try
Hmm.
to reach out to department heads and then,
Yeah. Or if
uh
you're lucky enough and some people are listening, they may
right.
want to just contact you. They're like, hey, we got somebody. They do hair. You do makeup as well?
No,
No?
I don't do makeup. Usually I bring in my cousin.
Okay, and then she'll help. So you have an artist that works with you. So you'll
Yes.
do the styling, she'll do the makeup and that sort of thing as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, because it's good. I mean, I hope the listeners today, well, I know the listeners today are getting so much out of this. It's incredible because it's something we haven't had on the Hairstylist Empowerment podcast before, because a lot of people don't really know how to get into the industry. So is 706 the main union, or are there other unions?
There's other unions. The 706 is the main union, or was the union for California. I'm not sure where
Hmm.
their territory, but I know definitely
Okay.
for California.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
definitely, if you're in the California area, anybody listening, 706 is what you should kind of look into. Or I guess to say, like, number one, do your research, right?
Yes.
So wherever you're at, if this is something you want to do and you want to go in, I think Candice gave you tons and tons of nuggets of gold during this episode that you can use, you can bring with you, that you can take along. I'm amazed. Like this hour, like usually we try to keep all our podcasts under an hour. Our time has just flown. And I still have so many more questions for you. So we may have to have you back for a part 2. Or sometimes
Okay.
what we do is we do a Facebook live. So if anybody listening and you want to hear Candi, she can like answer your questions live. We'll set something up, and then if you want to say check out some wig making stuff, go to her page on YouTube. She's also on Instagram. So they're both the same name, right? Cosmo
Yes.
with
Cosmo Candi.
Candi. Yeah, Cosmo with Candi. Check out her work. Her work is amazing. I
Thank
love her wig work. I
you.
love the washing video because it explains it simply, easily. It's not complicated. And if you follow that step by step, you won't mess it up.
Yes.
Yeah. So as we wrap, what I want to do is, because it is an empowerment podcast, I just like for you, Candi, just to impart some words of wisdom for our listening audience today.
Okay. Well, definitely, if you have a dream and a vision, make sure you guys follow through with it. It's not going to be easy, but everything worth having doesn't necessarily come easy. So I feel like when things get hard, that's the challenge. You're being challenged to see how hard do you really want it? How much are you really willing to sacrifice and dedicate to get it? So those are challenge. That's a test at that point. So make
Mm-hmm.
sure you show how much you want it. Of course, not by doing anything crazy, but um, if you have a vision, just make sure you stick
Mm-hmm.
to it. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy, but it will be worth it at the end.
No, and I think that's what it is. It's the pressure. As I say, like in order to get it diamond, you're coal first. And if you
Mhm.
don't have that pressure, and that pressure creates the diamond, and I think that's where it really tests you. So one thing I use, how can you have a testimony without having the test, right?
Yes.
You only have the monies. So you can't complain about stuff if you've never been tested. But also too, you're right. Testing shows you exactly where you're at, shows you what you're made of. And if you're willing to do it, like Candi has, you can drive through anything. You can drive through being tired. You can drive through negative comments. You can drive through self-doubt. You can drive through, and then be successful. Like, you know what I mean? Like with Candi, who gets to work at Disney? Who gets to be in the union? Who gets to do Fashion Week? Who, like your list goes on and on and on. Like
Thank
it's amazing. You are such an amazing, inspirational, empowering, wonderful. I don't know. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. So this lady, look her up, check her out. Definitely, follow her on social media on Instagram. Check out her YouTube channel. Like her page. Follow her. Check all her stuff. If you know someone who needs a wig person, make sure to hook her up. You
Yes,
know.
thank you. Thank you.
So do that, and we're all in this industry together. We all help each other. There's no competition. There's more than enough, for all of us, right?
Yes.
It's abundant, full, and overflowing. I want to say thank you, Candi, for coming on the show today. I thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll see you.